Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Managing User Experience in a Connected World. We are delighted to co-host this webinar with our special guest and testing partner, Testbirds. Today's webinar will last approximately 45 minutes and includes a Q&A session. You will have the opportunity to submit questions by typing your questions into the control panel at the side of your screen. We are recording this session and will share the recording with you afterwards. So, without further ado, let's get started. I now hand you over to our presenters Harve Kleeman from Qualitest and Charlotte Dixon from Testbirds.
All right, so just to get started with some introductions, my name is Charlotte Dijksman and I am representing Testbirds. I've been working there for nearly a year and a half in the role of project manager. So what I do is I make sure that all testing runs smoothly throughout the process, and I analyze the results and make sure that the tests that we do are analyzed and are valuable. Usually I'm in close contact with both my clients and my testers in all phases of the project, and my main focus is UX-based projects with qualitative research.
Hi, my name is Harve Kleeman. I started at Qualitest about 11 years ago. I've been involved in many different and really exciting projects in a lot of different industries. I've been leading the company UX practice for a year now, and I've worked for different UX projects for the last 3 years. I really find UX as a really major subject. Everybody can really relate to a bad user experience. A bit about Qualitest. Qualitest is the largest pure-play independent software testing and quality engineering company in the world. We have been recognized by Gartner as visionary for the last 5 years in a row. Qualitest was founded in 1998 and currently have presence in the USA, UK, Israel, Romania, and India. To make it simple, testing is all that we do.
So a bit about Testbirds as well. Testbirds is an innovative testing company that utilizes either crowd solutions or cloud technology to provide flexible testing methods to our clients. The company is founded in Munich in 2011, but has since then evolved internationally with an office in Amsterdam as well. Our projects range from small-scale projects to large-scale projects executed on a global basis.
Really cool. This is the part that we're going to have a poll for you. There's going to be 2 different polls. Basically, it's going to start now. Please answer the first question so we can collect the results, and then we can start the second question.
Okay, we're still collecting a few responses. Just give a few more seconds. Okay, I'll share the results of that poll.
So really cool. Most of you have some experience in user experience testing. This is really great to hear. For our second question,
there will definitely be some yeses there. Okay, so I think we're collecting. I'm going to close the poll now and share the results.
Cool. So just for everybody to know, most of you haven't had any testing experience in IoT, which is really cool as well. We're more than happy to have a bit more explanation around IoT and how we test it.
So thank you all for participating in the poll. It gives us a little bit of an idea of who is actually joining this webinar. Just because there was mixed experiences with both questions, a short explanation about what is the Internet of Things and what are we going to discuss today. So in very short, the Internet of Things is a network of internet-connected objects that are able to collect and exchange data. It is commonly abbreviated as IoT. The word Internet of Things has two main parts, Internet being the backbone of connectivity and things meaning objects or devices. So it's devices that are connected to each other via the Internet. A simple example, is your printer connected to your computer via Wi-Fi? That is IoT.
So, why is it cool? Basically, it turns a phone into a smartphone. When connected to the internet, the device can offer a whole range of services without actually having an entire inbuilt computer. Where would we be if we had to physically store all those music files on our phone? What if we wanted to play it on our computer? How would it get generated based on our personal preferences?
Applications like Spotify are a great example of that. But nowadays, things also go much deeper than that. Actually, a lot of services and machines all around us would classify as IoT. So to understand IoT or what IoT is, it's probably best to look at some examples. So what most people think about is smart home appliances. For instance, a refrigerator that can let you know that you're almost out of milk by sending a push message to your smartphone. But just like the sensors in a refrigerator can sense how fully stacked it is, the same applies to IoT solutions on a much larger logistics scale. So just recently, an example is the Harbour of Rotterdam, which is implementing a hydrometeo system with about 44 sensors strategically placed in and around the harbour to provide a constant stream of data. It measures water level, salt level, currency and docking times, making the harbour more efficient. This, combined with some artificial intelligence and machine learning, makes it possible that this harbour is on its way to becoming completely autonomous. And this is just an example of how IoT is implemented on a large scale as well.
That is really cool. But this is not exactly what we're going to focus on today. The Rotterdam Harbour is an example of industrial IoT solution. Today we're actually focusing on consumer IoT, meaning the way we interact with IoT in the world around us. Think about smartphones, smartwatches, home systems, streaming services, and connected cars. Basically, anything that has an app which allows you to control something from afar. When we're looking into researching a product, we need to learn everything about it. Why does this product even exist? What is the need for this product in the market? How does the user interact with it?
We do a lot of the research ourselves, so we can understand better both our clients and what it is that we're actually testing. So the client is sharing information both about the technical specifications and any other requirements. It's extremely important to get all of this right, so we're keeping an open dialogue with our client in every step of our planning.
When we're looking to test a product, it is not always a finished product, as it's always better to test it sooner rather than later. Before engaging in planning in the test, we plan it together with our client and see which phase we can start the testing. We need to also communicate that with our participants. As we can also test in concept, this might be something that is not yet fully developed. The client would want to see the likelihood of the target audience to want or actually need this product.
Yeah, when testing for the user experience, we will be focusing on what they think about the product. As it is a device, we can ask what they think about the design. We can ask how well it reacts and how quickly, if it's easy to use, if it's user-friendly, or if they need instructions to set it up. We will usually scope a couple of general questions together with device-specific questions to make sure we really understand what the end user feels. We intend to ask questions to allow us to put a number and an explanation on how good it is and why the participant thinks the way they do.
So, what does it mean, user-focused testing? Personas are archetypal user who represents the needs, motivations, values, and goal for interaction with a device, application, or website. There will be many personas for each application, which are likely to have a different characteristics. We start by listening, asking our client guided questions about their end user of their connected device.
What we also do is we ask our client if they have defined personas already, and if they don't, we help them define them together. It's really important to have the right end user. It's basically, there is no point to test with a user that would never use the product. We want to hear what the real end user thinks of this technology, what do they like about it, and what do they think is good about it. It is really important that the tester is directed to the user it's really important that the test is directed to the user that can relate to the target audience that our client is looking for.
So there's no point of trying to mimic a user that our participant can really not identify with as part of this test. The target is to have the user, the real end user that the client will have. We'll make a draft to basically find our targeted participant, and we'll inform our client about each step in the path towards testing.
A lot of the times the participants need to be from a certain geographical area, or they need to be in a certain age group or have a certain education. We can target anything that our client can imagine, really. The only thing that will take time is finding the right people. The more complicated the request, the more time it will take to recruit the right people. This is always the case. However, when determining the persona and the target group, we can start actually reaching out to them. To reach out to these testers, we at Testbers use our platform, which is called the Nest, to search for suitable participants. We have a global community of testers that are connected to us. It's about 300,000 testers in about 193 countries, and we have over 500,000 devices to select from. We also have about 65 criteria demographic that we can always play with, but if that's not enough, if the target group is still more specific, we can send out an initial questionnaire to get even more detailed target groups. For instance, we did a questionnaire for women in the US who have just stopped breastfeeding in the last 3 months and are familiar with the device of the competitor. This is just an example of how specific our target groups can get.
To reach out to our target group, we send out an invitation to the participants that fit that target group. We let them know about the content of the test, if it's possible, the deadlines and the requirements. They can accept the invitation on free will, allowing us to start on basis of trust. From the moment they are in the test, we were working on a personal relationship and maintaining close contact with them throughout the test. The personal approach is a key for us because we're testing in real-life condition with real end users.
So how is this research actually being done?
I think we try to identify the main reason to do this research from the first place with our client. It's really important to us to stay focused on a small targeted scope as part of the research process. This is helping us to pick the client's concern, or basically their pain points, to target the research around. We'll try not to cover too many subjects because that will make the research not focus on what the client really cares about.
Yes, I agree. We will also usually try to make a couple of assignments and then ask the questions around that assignment once the participant has completed it. This allows the experience to stay fresh in their minds, and the participants will give the feedback in good time. It is really important to cover the device needs. So for IoT, it's connectivity, its performance, and its functionality. So many things can go wrong that can affect the user experience, so we have to ensure that everything is as great as possible. All objects today are being used differently than what we are used to. So while people may be used to loading times when it comes to software, they would be against waiting for objects that in the past have worked immediately, such as a lock on their front door. In addition, these high-tech versions of day-to-day objects need to be intuitive and allow the object to work even without an internet connection.
Therefore, how should we approach IoT testing? How can you ensure that they function in the real world exactly as they do in the lab environment? When researching the user experience or a new IoT product, you look for feedback about functionality and the UI, of course. But how does it actually feel to use this product? Are the user experiencing the pain point in any way? Do they have to wait long before the command in the app is followed through in real life? Is the data provided in the app accurate enough? Does the service of the app or device provide the benefit to the user?
So one of the things we do at Testbirds, especially for IoT devices, is a test we call end-to-end testing. And in end-to-end testing, we ask our testers to actually use a device in real life. So an example of that is that we did a test for a baby monitor where about 50 mothers and 50 mothers and fathers used a baby monitor that was connected to an app for the course of 4 weeks, reporting to it in diary style, making it possible for us to really understand what is the user experience of this device in a real world setting.
So there's a lot of challenges. It's pretty obvious when you're dealing with real devices. Devices are connected to the internet, but the function and physical location management is required to organize real-life testing. Testing IoT devices require also a lot of planning and specific how to get meaningful results. These are the main topics that we need to be accounting for. Connectivity. It seems really obvious, but when reporting, actually analyzing the results for our client, we need to give all the proper data. This means asking for our testers to properly report all information about their internet provider, about basically the speed they're getting and the location they're testing. This can easily be done online and recorded via simple screenshot. Saying it's easy, but a lot of the time we'll get a feedback about the device wasn't as responsive as I hoped for. This is pretty useless if we don't have the data to back up the fact that because of the internet connection, that user was not happy.
So another challenge that we deal with quite a lot is shipping. So when physical devices need to be shipped, it requires a lot of organization. So what we do at Testbirds, we implement the shipping service within our testing scope. So we over the years we have gathered a lot of experience when sending devices abroad or when sending devices globally. So we know what it's like to make estimate times or how to solve issues like import rules and so on.
That is really cool, and it's always really hard to deal with, oh, I never got this.
Exactly. Or it's stuck in customs.
So another real problem is real-life issues in general. We're testing devices in real-life situation. We need to be prepared for anything. This might also seem rather obvious to you, but we're dealing with real-life people and real-life situations. It is our job to manage this. We're really trying to keep close contacts with all of our participants, talking to them almost daily. Our personal relationship with them allowing us to take and ask a lot of them in return. So basically, because we have a very close relationship with them, they're happy to trust us and we're trusting them to actually perform the test.
Yeah, I agree with this. Sometimes when I'm involved in a longer running test, I'm on a first name basis with our clients, or with our testers, I'm sorry. So another issue that we encounter quite a lot is, of course, product limitations. There are limitations that we need to consider. Sometimes products are top secret and they cannot be shipped. In that case, we would probably provide on-site testing or make other arrangements. So here's an example of a project that I was involved in, which had some challenges. So we executed a test for a high-end car brand. The test was focused on UX testing the interface of the app, but also testing the functionality of the app. So it was a connected car service. The first issue we encountered was a specific demographic. So this was a 200,000 euro car, and we were required to find testers that would buy such a car or preferably own one. Now we have a lot of testers in the nest, and luckily we were able to find the testers by sending out an extensive questionnaire, asking testers about their preferences, their affinity with luxury products, and so on. So the first problem was easily tackled. However, the second problem had a little bit more difficulty. So we were connecting this app to the car. However, the car was in a physical location, and usually what we do is we would have different sets of data specifically for testing. But in this case, we found out that the app could only be logged into by car owners with a special login code that was only provided by the car dealer when purchasing such a car. This code would run to a private and exclusively used server, so we had no accessibility at all. The solution we came up with is that we had on-site testing services, while me and another project manager sat in a car testing the app, talking to the testers remotely, and meanwhile making sure that all the functionalities such as climate control was working in the car. So luckily we had massage chairs so we could enjoy this project while we were doing it.
I would love to have a massage while doing my work every day. So how do we get to conclusions?
So when we ask questions, we try to ask both quantitative and qualitative questions. We would ask why would the participants answer a question the way they did. And we would also ask a lot of different types of information, both chosen answers or verbal input to each question.
Yeah. And when we do have all this information back from all the participants, we analyze all of this. We move some of the data into really cool graphs, and we can get some conclusions from the different demographics. For example, the young people really like this product. Another way for us to analyze the information is to look to trends in their verbal responses. So we can know that, for example, 35% of the participants thought response time was really good. We can also analyze the type of issues and concerns participants were raising as part of the general feedback. For example, 25% of the participants raised concerns about their privacy. This might mean that people would avoid using this product, so maybe let's find a way for them to be less concerned.
So another thing about getting to conclusions is a thing that we know as testing experts is that testing is an ongoing process. It's always important to keep getting feedback if you make changes based on a previous test cycle. Also, if any of our clients has new ideas, we can also just run a quick concept test before they even start to develop anything.
Yeah. The future. So if you haven't known, by the 2025, there's going to be 21 billion connected devices. More and more applications are being realized, are being connected as IoT solutions. Currently, the main areas of innovations happen on a great scale. You all remember the example of the Rotterdam Harbor. That's an example of data generation on large scale and machine taking over from humans. Another example is the rise of the smart city.
So the smart city, IoT has already been used to optimize traffic control within urban areas, but another application is measuring tourism by combining data from hotels, airports, tourist kiosks, etc. to measure tourism trends. This data can then be connected to, for instance, taxi services or train services or even general heating systems throughout the city.
That is so cool. There is IoT in cars. Connected cars seems like a child play when it comes to driverless cars. These cars apply machine learning from their own sensors, but also from sensors from the other cars. In addition to the traffic database, route mapping and optimization, and live news for making sure they arrive at the correct location without any issues.
This is something that I would like to run some UX testing on.
Yeah, I would definitely like to step into a very fancy car and get exactly where I wanted without the need to drive there.
So there are also, I find very interesting, some healthcare applications being implemented at the moment. So one example is this idea that based on benchmark data, there are services that control the dosage of medicine at different times in a day. These applications can monitor fluid levels in the patient's body, and based on that, they can initiate the fluid transfer. So at the same time, this data will be transmitted to stakeholders for research purposes. So this is all getting more and more connected and optimized as we speak.
Of course, there's many cool devices and services, and there is a bit of downside to all of this. Security issue is a major concern. When all of our home appliances and system moving towards IoT solutions, we need to start thinking more about our private security. Most people are unaware that standard consumer router has no security structure in place. At the same time, it is an access point to all the devices connected to the internet and their homes. Personal home security should be more on people's radar.
Yes, and on a larger scale, the question is always who controls this data and who has access to it. For this, legalization is needed. And with technology, especially consumer technology, it's developing so fast it cannot always keep up.
I agree. So for conclusions, when we are managing user experiences in the connected world, we need to make sure that the testing environment that we're testing it is as real as possible or as close to basically whatever is the target environment that product would run in.
And in addition to that, we need to make sure that these testers, these participants, really understand the background of the product and that they are in a position to test it successfully, share their feedback, in spite of any challenges that come their way.
Yeah, and it is challenging. So a lot of the time, our job is to make sure we also solve their problems. So, the device doesn't connect. I can't use this. Help me.
This is something that I relate to on a daily basis for sure. So this brings us to a conclusion of the webinar.
We'll move to our question section. So do you have questions?
Okay, thank you, Hava and Charlotte. You've given us a lot to think about there. Right, so let's dive into some questions. I've got some here in front of me. So, number one, what would you say is the most challenging aspect in testing IoT products?
Maybe you take that one?
Yeah, of course. So for me, it would be, I'm mainly involved in end-to-end testing when it comes to IoT. So It's people testing real devices in their home settings. So one of the most challenging parts is then whenever there are any issues, I need to be able to fix it remotely. And sometimes it's just a black box. You're not quite sure what is happening in that situation. And there's always something you cannot really think about beforehand. So it's a lot of on your feet thinking and a lot of creative thinking to really get to the root of some of the issues. Sometimes it's as simple as the internet connection, but sometimes it's a little bit more difficult and it's more location specific. So that's one of my main challenges.
Cool.
Sounds challenging. Okay. Next question. What is the most interesting feature you needed to test in an IoT device?
I think I'll pick this up. So a lot of the times different IoT devices have special features that basically not necessarily you had in different products or devices. For example, an IoT device can have a video camera that you can interact with and basically sort of control it from afar, and it could be in your home environment and stuff like that. So when you do need to interact with stuff like that, there is a lot more privacy concerns about, where's the camera is faced and what is it, taking pictures of. Is it on all the time? It's like, am I happy to put a camera in my house that, I can interact with? There's a lot of those products that now are based on cameras.
So are there any more questions?
I can't see any coming in, but if anyone does have any questions, you can just contact me. You'll have my details from the invitation if you want to ask any questions, and I'll filter them through to Harve and Charlotte. But thank you for the questions that were submitted today. So this concludes today's webinar. Thank you very much to our presenters, Harve and Charlotte, and our special guest and testing partner, Testbirds, for sharing their expertise. And we extend our thanks to everyone for joining us today. We will send the recording of this webinar to you shortly. We hope you can join us again soon. Until next time, goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.